You are listening to the IndyCar Report with Elijah Poe every Thursday on the Central Indiana Sports Report. And Elijah, Alabama, one of the best races of the year every year.
Barber Motorsports Park is just such a beautiful, beautiful motorsports park. It's got some of the best scenes we see in IndyCar all year. It's so unique with all the art installations all around the racetrack, the swooping hills, the green grass. They call it the Augusta of race courses for a reason. I'm really excited to see IndyCar down there this weekend. And welcome motorsport fans to the IndyCar Report with Elijah Poe. This is Elijah Poe as we enter the IndyCar week at Barber Motorsports Park, and it's nice that IndyCar is back again. It was weird with a week off, wasn't it, Greg?
Yes, with 3 weeks in a row. It's like I got a little withdrawal last weekend. I'm ready to go. I was watching the replay of last year, and it's got me juiced up for this week.
Such a good race, such a good race. We can kind of get into last year's race where Alex Poe won last year with his second win in Alabama. Obviously going to be a headliner this year. Should be a great race and really interesting to see what plays out here on Sunday.
Elijah, a lot of contenders in this one, I think, going into the weekend because you got obviously Alex Poe. Anytime it's an open road course, he's the favorite without question. I wouldn't be surprised if he was better than 2-1 favorite, to be honest with you. That being said, this is a course that Team Penske has dominated. Scott McLaughlin is fantastic there. Joseph Newgarden's won 3 times there. Of course, Will Power has always been good there. I'm not sure about Andretti, but Arrow McLaren last year was really fast at Alabama. Lundgaard might have been as fast as Poe, didn't quite have the same brakes, came from a little deeper in the field. Of course, it was Poe's third straight win to start last year. I think the guy who made the biggest noise that day was Lundgaard, though, and Pato O'Ward was good as well. So I expect a lot from them, too. And even, by the way, Nolan Siegel had a good day last year at Alabama.
I don't think you're wrong. I think it would be a huge day for a huge weekend in general for Arrow McLaren to kind of turn around their season. Even though it hasn't been a bad season by any means, we've talked about it at length. They're definitely lacking some pace, and it'd be great for Pato or even Lundgaard to get a good result in. But I think it would be really, really big for Nolan Siegel to get a good result in. It's been a really, really tumultuous start for him. There's no doubt about it. We all know he's kind of the odd man out in that group there. So when you're talking about drivers who need a good result, he might be number one in IndyCar right now.
Because Lundgaard, I think if you started with a draft who you wanted for the future, he'd be in the top 5.
Oh, you talk about somebody who just pure pace and talent. The stuff he did at RLL, hell, he's able to win a race at Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan that year at the Indy Road Course. Just incredible, the stuff he's done. And then it's going to be really fun to see him kind of progress at Arrow McLaren. He had a few shaky starts here in the start of the season, but you can tell his pace is just unbelievable.
Elijah, what makes Alabama so great is the first 5 turns are pretty much wide open, and the best start, I think, besides the Indy 500 and all of IndyCar, is going into those turns at Alabama. And the other thing, unfortunately, last year there were no restarts.
I hope that's not the case this year, because like you said, the restarts are really, really fun to watch. And I think the reason that they are so interesting on this course is because they don't have like a street circuit where if you go long in a corner, you might have an offshoot where you can turn around. But when you're at Barber, if you're off the track, you're in the grass, and that's going to be that's going to be a huge time difference, or it's either going to be a wreck. We don't root for wrecks, but honestly, I do root for cautions because they make the race so much more interesting.
By the way, Elijah, I pulled up the odds, the betting odds going into this weekend. Alex Poe's even better than I said, 110, which is basically Alex Poe against the field at Alabama, and I think that's probably fair. Kyle Kirkwood and Scott McLaughlin are both plus 350. Lundgaard, as we've been mentioning, plus 650. Pato O'Ward 10-1. Marcus Ericsson 12-1. Interesting. Ahead of Will Power 13-1 and Scott Dixon 14-1. And Dixon wins everywhere. Hasn't won much at Alabama.
No, but Dixon was actually somebody I was going to bring up during this podcast because he's kind of been a little quiet this season. Hasn't really been up in the front runners much this year. And if there's somebody that's going to kind of turn around when nobody's suspecting him, it's going to be Scott Dixon. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a good weekend here in Alabama.
Hey, everybody loses a step at some point. Has he lost the step?
Scott Dixon's still Scott Dixon. I don't think he'll ever lose this step.
I think that was an idiotic question because last year he was so good.
I would be really shocked to see him lose the pace. And I think when he does lose the pace, I think he'll be the first to say it and get out of the series. But man, when he does get out of the series, that Ganassi seat is going to be coveted gold.
That's right. That's right. But then everyone will be in Scott Dixon's shadow, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Because Ganassi's hired some great drivers over the year. He's also hired some duds. So it'll be.
I can't imagine he would hire anybody. I would expect, like, say he retires in the next 2-3 years. I think Newgarden would maybe take that seat.
Whoa. Why would he go from Penske to Ganassi?
Well, I think Newgarden's been pretty outspoken, maybe not in the fact that he's maybe upset with Penske, but you look at what Will Power did with Penske, where kind of just felt like it was time to move on. And I think a lot of those feelings maybe come from last year. Newgarden just wasn't successful, and this year he might have changed his mind just because they are successful. But in some of the interviews he gave last year, and even in Media Day this year, about the future of his contract, he's coming up on a contract negotiation here, and I think it's this year or maybe the year after. But nonetheless, that's coming sooner than you think.
And if it came at Alabama, of course, he's finished second there 6 times. 6 times.
Gosh.
And never won.
I guess moving on, it was just announced today on the Circle City in Indianapolis that Ed Carpenter is going to be running in the 500. I know that was pretty obvious, but I do have to ask the question, just being an Indiana guy, man, will he ever win one?
Doesn't look like it. He was so good, so long.
I'm really not sure. Not sure.
I'm just saying he's running out of opportunities here.
I do think the benefit of this year, we know that the ECR cars on a short oval are very, very fast. You look at what they did at Phoenix, especially Christian Rasmussen. That doesn't mean they're going to be fast at Indy, but they usually are.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, but historically they have been. So you combine the two things together and you can expect them to be good at Indy, I think.
And kind of going off of that, I do think Christian Rasmussen is such a dark horse, an easy dark horse for the 500. I cannot wait to see him this year in May.
That's a good call. I hadn't thought about that. I'm going in thinking Pato's the favorite in my mind.
But no doubt.
I can see Lundgaard for sure. But now that you mentioned Rasmussen, that kind of makes me think that might be the guy. It'll be interesting to see what he's doing going into May.
I'm sure his betting line is probably pretty high because he sits pretty low down on the points due to his incident with Will Power at Phoenix. Would have got him a nice point win, but didn't really get much after having to pit. But talking about the 500, we don't have to talk about this too long, but it would be worth mentioning that the Counting Crows is going to be performing on Carb Day for the concert. I think that's a nice addition for the 500, bring out some more people to the track.
That's a good one. Christian Rasmussen 12-1 currently to win the 500, so one of the favorites.
Oh, wow. No, they must have watched him at Phoenix.
They must have. Newgarden and Poe are tied at plus 550. I think that's fair. Pato 6-1, so basically the three of them are tied as the favorites. David Malukas 8-1, Scott McLaughlin 10-1, Christian Rasmussen 12-1, Scott Dixon 14-1.
Wow, I am shocked to not hear Marcus Ericsson in that list.
Yeah, that's a good call.
I am shocked to not hear that name because he has just been so incredibly good at Indy. And even though he was regulated to the back of the field last year, he was running in second place the whole race. We all knew it. Talking about Alabama, I've got a question for you. As we enter this fourth race of the season, who needs a better weekend here at Barber? Do you think Foyt or RLL? If you look at the standings right now, Graham Rahal's in 15th, Louis Foster in 19th, and Mick Schumacher in 25th. And for AJ Foyt, Kyle Collette is in 18th, and Santino Ferrucci in 20th.
Ooh. The answer is probably Foyt, but my interest is always in RLL because I think they have great potential. We've seen them win the 500 multiple times. We've seen them put together championship runs over the years, and they just haven't had it the last few years. So that's the one that's always the most interesting to me. But man, we've heard a lot about Kaio, and we haven't seen it yet.
I think for both teams kind of have different reasonings. When you talk about RLL, they had a lot of hype coming into this season, and I know we're only 3 races in, but they really haven't had much to show for. And it would be great for them to kind of step up and be maybe that team that can compete with the Air McLarens as maybe that 3rd or 4th budding team. And then on the Foyt side, I think they just need a result. Santino hasn't been great this year. Had a few solid results, and Kaio, like you said, a lot of hype, but not a lot of results yet. But no doubt, Barber's going to be a big weekend for them, just to get in the points, get more points as in general. I would love to see, one of the cars get a top 10, and it goes on to kind of another topic. I'm a little concerned about Mick Schumacher, who sits dead last in points, and we know he got crashed out on that first lap at St. Pete and kind of struggled at Phoenix after a good qualifying lap, but he was all but non-existent in Arlington.
Yeah, he was, but so was the whole team, I thought. And I thought he was good at Phoenix. Not great, but he had good moments. He had good speed. I thought he was impressive. I'm not concerned about him at all. By the way, real fast, Marcus Ericsson is also 14-1 to win the 500, along with Dixon. Willpower 16. So I was looking this up, Elijah, while we were talking. Former winners Willpower and Takuma Sato, both 16-1. Former winner Alexander Rossi, 18-1. And Santino Ferrucci and Connor Daly, both 20-1. Elio Castroneves and Mick Schumacher, both 25-1. Colton Herta, 30-1.
Actually, interesting development. I've heard some rumors swirling that with the Bahrain Grand Prix and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix being canceled for F1 and F2, I've heard that F1 and F2 are trying to get an F2 race at Canada, which would take place on the same day as the Indy 500. So that would all but rule out Colton Herta in the Indy 500 if that does happen.
That is interesting now that Connor Daly signed with Dreyer and Reinbold. It'd be interesting to see who they were. Andretti would go after somebody. That's a coveted seat, man.
I'm not even sure who would take that seat, though. I really have no clue.
There's got to be somebody worthy of putting in that seat, right?
Even if a NASCAR driver wanted to do the double, but I'm not sure Andretti would go for that. There's a real possibility that they don't run a 4th car. That is an option.
Oh, yeah, sure. But I would think that if you can get somebody you think can win, you got to put them in that car. It's too good of an operation, particularly at Indy, not to try to increase your odds of winning.
Do not think you're wrong there. Next time, this next first-time winner will be the 300th different winner in the USAC Kart and IRL/IndyCar history. I have a question for you, Greg. Who do you think will be that 300th different winner? That's a crazy stat.
David Malukas has to be the right answer. I'd put him up against everybody else who is a non-winner so far. But, man, I'm loving what Dennis Hauger's doing.
I think David Malukas definitely has the best shot. I think not quite on his level, but maybe if a race falls his way, I think Marcus Armstrong is definitely talented enough to slip in and get a win here and there. I think Hauger could maybe do it. I don't think he'll be the 300th winner. I can't see him beating. I can't see him getting a win even this year.
But
I think he's got to show. I think he had a really good showing at St. Pete, and it was pretty solid at Phoenix, but I'm not sure that DCR car can really win a race unless a lot of luck falls their way, which can happen in IndyCar.
It's not going to be Kiffin Simpson.
No, no, and we can talk about Kiffin Simpson, who just got awarded a post-race penalty today, which is, I can't believe IndyCar's handing out a penalty this late. But they demoted him to 20th place after his Arlington incident. Or they demoted him to last after his Arlington incident, where he kind of just pretty much crashed into the back of poor Nolan Siegel, who I have to take the bullet here. I did accidentally blame Nolan Siegel after that incident, but it turns out it was Kiffin Simpson who kind of ran into the back. Just another unfortunate event for Kiffin. It seems like he can't ever really just find some good luck in the IndyCar series, and hoping he finds it because, that seat's really, really good and he can't be messing up too much longer than this.
By the way, Ganassi sometimes goes too long with these drivers. It's been something he's done for a long time. Guys who do not belong on the best team in the sport. Like Darren Manning went a couple of years, and even Ryan Briscoe. Max Chilton was on his team for a couple of years. He had kind of this side team too with Charlie Kimball, who was really good at Indy, pretty good on ovals, but not quite worthy of Ganassi. So I think he's going to stick with him.
I think he will too. I really do, but I will give Kiffin Simpson a little credit because that Sunoco car is one of the prettiest cars on the grid. That sponsor in, I can see why Ganassi kept him because that's a really, really good looking car.
And that might be why he's keeping the drivers longer than he should.
In IndyCar, with how expensive everything is, I think a lot of the drivers look at Nolan Siegel. We know he's bringing in money for that seat. Kiffin Simpson, I would assume, is bringing in money for that seat as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. A possibility for rain on Saturday, and unfortunately, there is nobody better in the rain than Alex Palou. But I really do think Scott McLaughlin is right there with that level with his supercar experience. But that being said, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on who you think could maybe have an advantage in the rain on Saturday, if it does.
I don't know who has the advantage, but I'll tell you why I love rain on qualifying is it's because you just get everything all mixed up for Sunday, and fast cars will be in the back, and cars that wouldn't normally have been up in front in qualifying have drivers who are good in the rain, and they've been doing it and they have experience, and they won't be quite as good on Sunday when it's supposed to be really sunny. So I love when it rains in qualifying and it doesn't on race day. It's one of my favorite things that happens. And by the way, Scott Dixon, Will Power, those guys have always been great in the rain.
I couldn't agree more. I love when IndyCar throws in these variables, and especially it's amazing when the weather throws in these variables. But especially with rain qualifying, I think this is when you find some of the drivers that are really, really testy on the limits. Some of them are going to fail, and some of them are really going to succeed. Yeah. So it's going to be super interesting to watch. And that qualifying is going to be out 1:35 on Saturday. And just a reminder that the Fast Six is going to be a last row shootout again with the one lap qualifying with the final six, with the slowest going first and the fastest going last. And I'm going to be interested to see how they're going to adapt that, because I heard a lot of drivers and teams talk that, Marcus Ericsson obviously took the pole at Arlington, and a big reason for that, a lot of teams are saying, was he had hotter tires and hotter brakes. So, which is true. That can obviously help the car go faster and slower, obviously, on a street course as well. I'm not sure what IndyCar can do to kind of adapt that. Maybe each car gets a one-lap warm-up lap, but that definitely needs to be addressed, because we don't want to have different cars getting a leg up just because they are slower or faster in qualifying.
And Elijah will join me on my daily show, Greg and His Friends Talk Sports, on Sunday to review the qualifying and to preview the race in Birmingham. And then after the race, Elijah and I will recap it with our reaction to what happens at what promises to be one of the best races of the year. And we'll probably be joined by Dave Chanley and Michelle Garman and others who often join us after the race. And thank you so much for your time, Elijah. Look forward to the race on Sunday and look forward to hearing from you on Greg and his friends Talk Sports.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It's going to be another great weekend of IndyCar.